some news has happened.
Always does.
Again. Keeps happening.
On Wednesdays.
On Wednesdays. But this time the news had the good sense to happen before we started recording. So let's talk about Liz Cheney. Alyssa, do we feel sorry for Liz Cheney?
I don't think Liz Cheney even wants us to feel sorry for her, right? I mean, she burned the place down. Look, Liz Cheney had two choices, right? She could have capitulated and been like, oh, fine, I don't have to say the big lie is true, but I don't have to say the big lie is a lie, or whatever the actual logical expression of that would be. And she was like, no, fuck it. Guess what? This is the truth. Here is the truth. The truth is the election wasn't fucking rigged. The election was fair and free. And if we're not on board with a free and fair election, what the fuck are we talking about? It means then that we are at war with the Constitution. And so I don't think we have to feel sorry for her, because I think she did exactly what the fuck she wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what you can do when you're a billionaire scion of a war criminal family, right?
You can. It gives you some freedom.
Yes, right. You don't. I mean, she can. If she is feeling sad, she can dry her tears with her money. But I don't feel like she's somebody who wants us to feel sorry for her. No. A few things stuck out to me, but one thing that stuck out was that she gave a speech on the floor of the House on Tuesday night. So she got in on the A blocks of some of the primetime Tuesday night opinion shows, which is a canny move, like very smart, because then she got a whole night of headlines. She got a whole morning of like morning podcast headlines before.
Not just headlines, laudatory. Like, yeah. Look at her go.
Yeah. And like, the thing is, she's not like, I'm not a dupe. You're not a dupe.
No.
Neither of us are like just brimming with bullshit professional pundits. Like we both kind of see what's going on here. Liz Cheney isn't a hero, but she's something.
She's something.
She's something.
She's not a pussy.
She's
not complicit.
She's not complicit in this particular one bad thing.
Correct. Which is a pretty big bad thing.
Yes.
That she is the utter outlier on. Right.
Mm-hmm. Adam Kinzinger.
Yes, correct. Yeah. That is true. We can't leave him out, because he was actually outspoken about all this bad shit way before she ever was, you know. But it is interesting, because there she was, Liz Cheney, Dick Cheney's spawn, on the House floor, and all those little bitch GOP House Republicans walked out one by one as if they thought in their heads it was the same thing as when all the football players went into the coach in the movie Rudy and were like, this one's for Rudy, and put their jerseys down. They thought they were doing that, but like in reverse, and it like wasn't even close.
Yeah, here's the thing. You know that really famous, well-used GIF of the basketball player shooting a long three, holding his follow through and turning around before he sees that it bricks off the backboard?
Yeah.
That's what I feel like Republicans are doing right now. Okay, so Liz Cheney is making this speech. I will do everything in my power to make sure that Donald Trump never returns to the White House. And meanwhile, we have Republicans tweeting mission accomplished banners. We have Madison Cawthorn typing out nah. Hey,
what does that even mean?
Goodbye.
Right.
But like seeing it, it's like, that's the thing you say, Madison. You don't type it. It looks weird.
It looks weird.
It looks very weird. But all of these Republicans kind of showboating, and it's like, you do realize that an incredibly powerful figure from an incredibly powerful family just basically offered to take any future candidacy of a Trump out duck hunting with her, so to speak. That if it were me, look, I don't like Liz Cheney. I don't like the Cheney family. I think they are bad. If I were a Republican, would I consider it strategically a good idea to fuck with them?
No,
absolutely not.
Definitely not.
Definitely not. She has so much more power and so much more money and so many more connections than Donald Trump. Deep connections, generational connections. Like,
I mean, do you think they're missing the point that her dad started a war on a lie? Do they think they are playing here with someone who isn't smarter than them?
Yeah, Liz Cheney, I believe, for everything that she has done poorly in the past, from rejecting her gay sister to
Correct.
being generally on the total wrong side of almost every issue. Liz Cheney is not stupid. She
No,
is not stupid, and I'm interested. I love revenge. I love watching a good revenge.
totally.
I'm
This
interested in seeing this revenge.
I'm interested in seeing the revenge too. And also, it's like all those numbnuts who walked out of the House chamber last night forgot that Donald Trump has a lot less money than Liz Cheney.
Yes.
Like so much less.
It's almost, I kind of have been thinking about this a lot. It's like, what is in it for them to continue to kiss his ass? Like, and I feel like it couldn't possibly be money. It's like short term, it's like a short term rush of instant gratification, like the same neurons that light up when you send a tweet that like a lot of
Yes.
people like right away, where it's like, wait a minute, I just spent 10 minutes editing a tweet that I could have been doing something else way more valuable. But this immediate rush of like, oh, people are
It's
noticing.
endorphins, baby.
Right. It's like, in that experiment with the rats where they put rats in a cage, and what they had two buttons, and one of the buttons gave them food and one of the
Right.
buttons gave them cocaine. And the rats just kept hitting the cocaine button until they died.
Who wouldn't?
I mean, yes, cocaine is a very addictive drug, and it also makes you not hungry. But like I feel like that's what Republicans are doing with Donald Trump. They're just bashing that cocaine button over and over again, instead of just being like, wait a minute, I should eat.
Wait, Erin, that may be the single best distillation of Trumpism ever that anyone's ever made. All those pundits on TV should give their money back because you just did it.
All I ask is that they donate it to organizations that A, preserve endangered species, and B, promote education and multiculturalism. That's
There.
all I ask.
There
I don't
you
need
go.
it.
I will be watching. I will be watching.
Okay, good. Give me the money, and then I will funnel it to organizations that deserve it. Speaking of organizations that don't deserve money, the NRA. You want to talk a little bit about the NRA?
Well, Erin, they're having a very bad, very sad week.
They are, and I kind of wanted to wrap this conversation in a toast to Shannon Watts of Moms Demand Action. I want to toast Shannon Watts. She must be having the best week. Speaking of a rush of endorphins, she must be having just the best week. A federal judge just this week rejected the NRA's bid to declare bankruptcy and reestablish itself in Texas. It's also a victory for our friend Tish James. She's not really our friend, but she is in my imagination.
She kind of is, especially now that Cuomo's like, Tish James, I don't even know her.
Oh, yes. Tish James has, like, and I mean this in a non-gendered way, giant brass balls. Tish James is not afraid of anybody. So basically, Tish James was successful. The NRA can no longer declare bankruptcy. It's a huge setback for the NRA. It means they just spent millions and millions of dollars on a failed legal battle, and that battle is going to continue on. Not great. Alyssa, how are you feeling about this?
Delicious. I think it's delicious. I love it. Because you know what this means, Erin? If they can't declare bankruptcy, it means that as they go forward, they are going to have to answer. Like, to me, being able to declare bankruptcy is like new broom sweeps clean, right? It's like, oh, well, we're bankrupt. Now we move on and we start over. And it's like, no, now they're going to have to answer for all those fucking suits that they bought that lunatic boss of theirs, LaPierre. I refuse to say his name properly. And the mansions and the yachts and the trips. I am just older than you to remember when Tom Brokaw used to have this segment on the nightly news called The Fleecing of America. And at some point, Erin, the people who contribute to the NRA and the people who got scammed by Donald Trump and went to make a donation and then just kept giving and haven't gotten their money back are going to realize they're being fleeced by some very bad people. And maybe at some point they'll wake up and be like, am I wrong? Am I doing the wrong things?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on there, because on one hand, when someone is telling you everything that you want to hear and presenting a version of the world that either fits perfectly into your fears or your dreams or some combination of both, and you really, really want to believe that's real, and then you give them money, on top of that, you want to believe that you are not a dupe. Totally. So you have like these two very strong like psychological pulls. Like you want it to be true and you don't want to be stupid. And like it just takes a really long time for people to be like, wait a minute, something seems off here. Here's the thing though. Look, Wayne LaPierre and other grifter types, like half of Donald Trump's cabinet. Remember the guy
more than half.
Oh, like most of them. Like remember HHS Secretary Price, who's like flying around visiting his son. It's just like they were all just like total grifters. And despite all of this funneling of money that should be used for other things, for their own personal enrichment, they still look like crap, aren't introducing any beauty or interesting things into the world. If I were giving money to an organization and the head of the organization was using that money to like look really fucking fly all the time, I would be like, okay, I am a little mad you took my money, but at least you are completely dominating the Met Gala red carpet. At least I have these pictures. With Wayne LaPierre, we just have these like secret suits that he never wore in public, but he bought with people's money anyway.
I mean, the man looked ill-fitting from day one. And if that were my money that I had given, if I had given like my $25, which was money I didn't even really have to give, but I'm so upset someone might take my gun someday because Wayne LaPierre is telling me they're going to take my gun. And then I just saw that he had some jankety suit that looked like, I mean, I agree with you. Like he didn't even do good things with the money.
Right. Spend it on something cool, man. Like instead of something, they always just spend it on dumb shit.
Buy a cool gun. I don't know.
Yeah, none of the guns are even that cool. Buy a cool gun that like has a safety feature and required a background check before you purchased it.
Yeah,
I think that would be
or had digital thumbprint technology so that little kids couldn't just unlock gun.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we've got a long way to come with guns, but for now, it's really fun to watch the NRA kind of crash and burn. We're almost out of time because we have to talk to one of our favorites, Senator Mazie Hirono of Hawaii. But before we go, I want to talk about this headline on Vice News this week. It filled me with a feeling that doesn't have a name. Like Schadenfreude is a specific like shame joy. It's like shame or joy at the shameful feeling of watching other people experience misfortune. This is an unnamed feeling. The headline is anti-maskers ready to start masking to protect themselves from the vaccines.
So here's the thing. When you texted this to me, I was like, oh yeah, I heard about this because up here I have a friend whose neighbors were like, oh, we want to see you. Have you been vaccinated? And she was like, we have. We are double vaxxed. We're good to go. They were like, oh. And she's like, what? They're like, well, you're still technically like contagious, so we can't be around you. And she was so confused. And they meant contagious from her vaccination. That they couldn't be near her because it would change their DNA, which I thought was just something that was hyperbole I saw on the news. No, it is true. She got it from Facebook and she won't be around them. And now they're kind of like, well, we're not going to be around you because you are dumb. So we're not going to be friends anymore. It's okay.
Oh my God. There's one in the wild. You found one in the wild.
Found one in the wild. And I couldn't believe it. And that's her whole thing now. These people never wanted to wear masks. And now they're like, oh, we can't catch it from you. So we'll wear masks.
Where are these people in our fight to punish and rein in environmental polluters? Do you know how much more dangerous the chemicals are that are being dumped into our air and water?
Erin, why are you being logical?
I feel like, the thing is, I hear people being like, I'm worried that my DNA is going to get fucked up from this foreign thing. It's like, okay, you're halfway right because your DNA will get fucked up with foreign things, but this isn't the thing. It's all this other stuff. My God.
It is more like, here's the thing. I think that you and I are both very reasonable people and we can see things we disagree with and be like, look, I see their point. I don't agree with it. This is something that when people talk about it, you're like, no, dude, come on. You're dumb. Like this is, I don't use the word lightly, but like catch a vaccine, and I guess this is the only vaccine. I mean, it's like, it's not even worth going down the rabbit hole of trying to dissect, but it is terrifying.
We need to pay science teachers a lot more money, and we need a lot more of them. And we need to have like continuing adult science education so people have a basic understanding that mRNA cannot jump through the air. And like, Jesus Christ.
It's not the chicken pox.
Look, we are a country full of people who are just not men of science. And it's really showing. It is really showing. But look, if this is what gets them to wear masks, they're not vaccinated, they're wearing masks, good. I feel like we should maybe, as people, so if you're right wing and listening to this, I don't know why you would be, but if you are, please cover your ears, because I'm about to talk about a scheme with Alyssa. We should just make up lies like this all the time to get them to do what we want. Like,
we could just start a Facebook account and be like, did you know that Donald Trump says,
if you wear a mask, you will not catch the vaccine from all the people that got the vaccine,
which will mutate your DNA like something that could only happen in a movie like The Matrix.
Yeah. I'm going to see a lot of Don't Tread on Me masks this summer, and it's going to be hilarious. I'll be wearing my biker shorts. Cannot wait. Today, we are welcoming back a returning Hysteria favorite. She's a woman of many talents, the junior senator from Hawaii, a member of the Judiciary Committee. She makes her own paper, and now she's an author. Her new memoir, Heart of Fire, An Immigrant Daughter's Story, is available now. Welcome, Senator Mazie Hirono.
Hello, once again.
It's really great to have you. I think you're the person who is an elected official who has been on the show the most. Mm-hmm. You hold the title.
I feel honored. Thank you. I love talking to you all.
Oh, likewise. So you've had a few recent victories. First of all, you and Senator Duckworth successfully advocated for the Biden administration to appoint an AAPI representative to a senior level position. Second, your anti-hate crime bill passed the Senate almost unanimously. Congratulations on both of those things.
Yes. As I said at one point, miracles do happen, but nonetheless, when the need is there, even the Republicans can come forward and vote for a bill.
Right. Well, the passage of the bill marked a moment of bipartisanship in the Senate, which is weird in a time when bipartisanship has almost become an impossible dream. Mm-hmm. Why do you think the Senate came together on this issue?
Well, everyone knew that there's been a dramatic increase in hate crimes targeting Asian American Pacific Islanders. And we just saw all of the images on the news of people being beaten up and other people standing by doing nothing. These are horrific images. And so Chuck Schumer wanted to bring my bill, COVID-19 hate crimes bill, to the floor in a fast track. And so as the bill was being readied for debate and discussion on the floor, different people began to think about it. And I worked closely with Susan Collins, who had some concerns, and I addressed her concerns, and we were able to broaden the support for the bill while retaining the purpose. But certain Republicans filed some 20 amendments to do in the bill, basically to undo the bill and all of that. And we negotiated down to 3 amendments. And all of the amendments were defeated. Even the people who submitted the amendments ended up, i.e. Ted Cruz, ended up voting for the bill, and there was only 1 no vote against it, and we won't talk about him very much.
I was going to ask, what is a person who votes against the hate crime bill? What is their problem? Like, what do you think was going on there?
I don't spend a lot of time trying to figure it out, but I think he wants to be the notorious, or I don't know, notoriety, but what I've said is that, you know what, he obviously doesn't stand with the AAPI community at a time when we all should be standing up to these kinds of totally unprovoked, vicious attacks on a group of people.
Senator, as Erin just said, aside from your bill and Senator Gillibrand's Military Justice Improvement Act, there is really no meaningful bipartisanship in the Senate. And also, very notably, disagreements on important issues within our own party, which we're seeing play out with the infrastructure bill. What components of the current version of the bill do you think are absolutely vital to American families?
But Joe Biden wouldn't have proposed the infrastructure bill as well as the American Family Bill without understanding that that these are necessary bills. We all know that there are trillions of dollars in infrastructure throughout our country that has gone unmet. Every state has the bridges and things that are falling down, and so it's been an ongoing issue. Even Trump wanted to address infrastructure in the bizarre way that he usually does things. So nothing happened there. And then as for the American Family Plan, issues such as paid family leave, childcare, these have been also issues that we've been debating for years, and the need has been shown for years. And so now, as Joe Biden tries, and the rest of us, the Democrats, try to get the economy back on track and enable women in particular to get back to work, these are really important parts of the proposals of the plan to get our economy back on track and get back to some level of economic and social normalcy. So I'm not going to sit here and parse out those parts of the bill that we have to, we're going to excise. We're still at the point where we would like all of that to happen. And even parts of it, I'm not hearing the Republicans talk about any significant infrastructure measure. They came up with something like a $600 billion plan as opposed to almost $3 trillion plan. The gap is very wide. And so I'm not quite sure how we're going to be able to accomplish this in a bipartisan way. And so we're going to, I would say, need to look at other processes to get this done. There may be some room for some negotiations, such as how we're going to pay for all this infrastructure, and the tax rate is an area, tax rates for corporations, so that they actually pay their fair share of taxes. That may be an area where we can have some negotiations. But I would say that the vast majority of the proposals in the infrastructure plan, as well as the American Family Plan, there's a huge gulf between where the Democrats are and where the Republicans are.
Okay. And speaking of Democrats, there's not total unity across the entire caucus of Democrats. The White House is said to be hosting Senator Sinema to discuss the American Jobs Act this week. Intellectually, we know that Democrats need both Sinema and Senator Joe Manchin in the caucus for Schumer to retain majority leader and be able to get things done. But how are we supposed to not be thrown into spirals of anxiety over the fact that members of the Democratic Party might derail so much of the president's agenda before the midterms? Do you think Biden can figure out a way to get Sinema and Manchin to join the rest of the caucus?
I hope so. That's all I can say at the moment, because let's face it, with a 50-50 split Senate, any Democratic senator can throw a wrench into the works. And so my hope is that Joe and Kirsten realize that the people in our country need help, families need help, small businesses, and that while there may be some areas for compromising, that the bottom line is that we ought to be together doing this. So let us hope that Joe Biden can work his magic.
An infrastructure of childcare in this country is a life-changing proposal that can affect the trajectory of generations of families, particularly women and their ability to work outside of the home. In your memoir, Heart of Fire, you discuss your experience being raised by a single immigrant mother in the United States. How has that experience informed your fight for the women, families, and immigrants in Congress?
When we first arrived from Japan, and my mother as a single parent working several jobs just to roof over our head, food on the table, we didn't even know about such things as a safety net, by the way. And so I don't think anybody talked to us that you can, maybe there's some help out there. We just struggled. And therefore, I know the importance of these kinds of programs that will enable a person to, generally it's a woman, to go out and work. And in my own family, because we certainly couldn't afford childcare. In fact, the thought didn't even enter my mother's head. That is why we had to leave. She had to leave her baby, my younger brother, in Japan, because there would be nobody to take care of him while she went to work here. And that separation trauma, in fact, affected his life for the rest of his tragically short life. And so these kinds of support for women and for families is critical And I understand that from my own lived experience.
So, Senator, we call you Zero Fucks Hirono around here because we admire how you speak your mind and tell it like it is, but it's never executed in a dramatic way, and it never really seems like you're seeking attention. You're just telling us what you think. It's always matter of fact. Have you always been like that?
It's been a journey for me because, as I expressed in my book, I come from a culture, both from my Hawaii culture as well as my Japanese culture, that being confrontational, being vocal, being aggressive are not traits that are particularly rewarded. And so in my political life, I basically got things done using other methods and being very strategic. I would use my voice once in a while, but never to the extent that I did during the Trump years, because I also can't stand bullies, and it is important to stand up to bullies. And so my journey has been to enable me to be my more complete self, because now I use my brain, my heart, and my voice.
That's aspirational. And speaking of zero fucks, the House GOP just kicked Liz Cheney out of leadership for having the audacity to tell the truth about who won the election. Before the election, then candidate Joe Biden said the fever would break, but it looks kind of like the plague is spreading. What do you make of the House GOP's formal break with reality?
I think their adherence to this person who's not even the president, their fear of him is palpable. And apparently for them, bowing to Trump is more important than telling the truth. And they haven't been telling the truth in a long, long time. And every once in a while, maybe Kevin McCarthy right after January 6th, on January 6th, he might criticize the president, but then they go right back into their really, I was going to say hidey holes, but it's really pathetic to watch them. And I think the Republican Party is in my view, they are going down a very bad path. And I don't know where they're going to end up, because they stand for nothing besides having to kiss Trump's ring. It's simply amazing. I'm really glad that Liz Cheney is sticking to her words and standing up to them as well as Trump. I hope that at some point it'll be like the McCarthy period, where somehow decency will once again prevail. But, I've seen, sadly, very little of it from the Republican Party.
Well, Senator Hirono, congratulations on your recent successes. Congratulations on the book. Thank you so much for joining us once again. And come back anytime.
Mahalo.
Thank you for the invitation. Mahalo. Aloha, everybody.